All right, so while we were doing this puzzle, finally have a good opportunity to do some story time. For my birthday week, I went to Prince Edward Island, Canada. And there were basically like
I
two
did it.
parts to the trip. There was the wonderful, awesome part of the trip, and then there was the absolute nightmare part of the trip. Chronological order. Um, haven't been to Canada, but cool. Your friend just traveled there. Ah, yay. It was 100% an Anne of Green Gables pilgrimage.
Hello.
I finished the nanograms puzzle.
Awesome. Nice job.
Your
What do you
brother's been
think?
there? PEI, heck yeah.
I loved it.
I've got something better. You know it. You love it. The original Sudoku.
What was the awful part? Maybe I'll tell you guys the good parts first, and then I'll share the absolute nightmare part.
Oh, I played that before.
Great. Great. I've got some good ones for you here. Here you go. Bring it back if you want more.
5 hours away for work currently. Oh my goodness, Soph, that is extremely stressful.
I'm back for more nanograms.
Here you go.
I hope he's doing okay
I
now.
should go. I'll talk to you later.
See you later.
Went to PE High, beautiful, but not much there. Yeah, Soph. I think it was supposed to originally be a 4-day trip. Flying in on the 6th and leaving on the 9th. And with 2 full days in the middle. Probably didn't need 2 full days. I could have been okay with the 1 full day. But yeah, went for all of the Anne of Green Gables stuff. Flew in on the 6th. That was basically a whole travel day. I connected through Toronto and then flew to Charlottetown. Didn't get in until really late. Picked up my rental car. There was a one-room schoolroom that reminded you of Anne of Green Gables. Yay! Oh my gosh, Soph, that's wild. So that first night was pretty uneventful. Flights were delayed, but I got to my hotel eventually, got my rental car and everything, so all was well. And then the next full day was absolutely gorgeous. I went to the Anne of Green Gables Heritage Place, which is definitely the best Anne of Green Gables feature. If you're ever going to go to Prince Edward Island and you ever want to do Anne of Green Gables stuff, the Anne of Green Gables Heritage Place is the one to go to. It's in Cavendish, which is basically the town that Avonlea was based off of. And it was extremely beautiful, had all sorts of great exhibits about Lucy Maud Montgomery, the author, and how she got inspired to write Anne of Green Gables. And then there were walking trails that led you through the places that inspired the Haunted Woods and Lover's Lane, which was really cool. It was so fun to be able to walk those places. I went to her burial site, got to kind of pay tribute to who I think is now my favorite author. I just really, really resonate with Lucy Maud Montgomery. Oh yeah, so if it sounds like you did all you could do, it's hard when you're away and then people end up being ill. Greetings, Sugar Plum. Welcome to the stream. Missed the first hour because I can never convert your time into my time. How far are we? Not far at all. We haven't even left the Ryokon yet. Welcome to the stream. So good to see you. And then I went to Prince Edward Island National Park. Went into the Atlantic Ocean for a little swim. I did some reading on the beach. I watched sunset while drinking a bottle of 100% blueberry juice. Lucy Maud Montgomery, also one of your faves. Yes. It was absolutely beautiful. The sunset was gorgeous. It was so fun just like sitting there on the cliffs of Cavendish with my juice, watching the sun go down. Absolutely beautiful. I had amazing breakfast in a really peaceful garden under a gazebo covered with ivy. It was so beautiful. And with an E, exactly. I had a lobster roll for lunch. I had some fresh mussels. All very cool. And the next day, I went to the Anne of Green Gables Museum, which did have the Lake of Shining Waters, but otherwise was kind of underwhelming. There were also just kind of some frustrating patrons there, so which kind of reduced the experience when you're in really tight quarters. Greetings, Josh and Em. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Usually have to watch them later on in the day. Well, great. I'm so glad you could make it this time, Josh. So good to see you. Sounds glorious. It was. It was like almost a perfect day. That first full day was almost a perfect day. But yeah, Anne of Green Gables Museum, it was fine. It was kind of overpriced for what it was, but not bad. And then I went to Lucy Maud Montgomery's birth site. I went to the house that she was born in and got to tour that. Had kind of a chill afternoon and then went and got some Italian food and some ice cream for dinner. That was lovely. And then the next day was when I was supposed to fly home. And I was in Charlottetown, so I went to an art museum in Charlottetown just to kind of kill some time because I had more of an evening flight. And that was nice. Again, like a little overpriced for what it was, but not bad. And there was a really cool step show going on. There was like a professional dance group that at noon did a step show. We don't like frustrating patrons. We don't. So that was cool. And then I went to the airport, and then that's when the nightmares began. Yes, this was a solo trip. Just for funsies, a little birthday gift for myself. I hate the word Gables. How did you like Canada? I quite enjoyed Canada. I have a question for any Canadians in chat today before I tell you about the nightmare part of the trip. Meetings were moved. Nice, madam. Love that. YouTube ads do not interrupt. I'm enjoying the story. Greetings, Sofindo. Welcome to the stream. How are you? Okay, so before we talk about the nightmare part of the trip, some questions for the Canadians in chat. One, is it just a Charlottetown thing, or are all of your red stoplights square? Are all of them square, or is that just Prince Edward Island? That made me chuckle. I'm assuming it's for people who are colorblind. But yeah, they are not square in Ontario. That is not common, just Prince Edward Island. Okay, they are round here. Okay, thank you. Square, interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting. Also, is this just Charlottetown, or is this most places in Canada? Sidewalk curbs, not a thing. No sidewalk curbs? Like the sidewalk and the road are the same height? Is that a thing in many places in Canada, or was that just Charlottetown? Because that seems dangerous. I was concerned for the pedestrians, of which there were many. There were a lot of pedestrians. Do not remember square in Toronto. We have sidewalk curbs here. I made a list of things that I needed to ask the Canadians. We have curbs. Different levels here too. You live in a small town. That does seem dangerous, right? Also, electric poles and telephone poles in the road. Like sidewalk, pole, road with nothing like blocking the pole. So like if someone was not paying attention, would very easily crash into the pole and run over people on the sidewalk. Is that also a thing in Canada, or was that just Charlottetown? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Greetings, Lauren. Welcome to the stream. How are you? 7. No? The pole is off the road. We do have lampposts in the sidewalks. It was, like, not in the middle of the road or anything, but definitely in the road. Avoid Charlottetown if you value your life. I mostly stayed out of Charlottetown. I went to, like, the countryside. That was interesting. Pretty sure the posts are usually blocked off. Okay, well, that's good. So Charlottetown just has some interesting, interesting choices with some of its civil engineering, I guess. Also, you guys definitely have an accent. It's there. Charlottetown sounds unhinged. I heard it in Prince Edward Island, I heard it in Quebec, and I heard it in Toronto. The Prince Edward Island accent is a Canadian accent. But I also heard it in Toronto, and I also heard it in Quebec. The maritime accent is stronger than where you live. Toronto too? Yes, Toronto too. I also heard it in Toronto. The sorries. The sorries were very pronounced. Also tomorrow. Sorry and tomorrow. And at Tokyo, because the Olympics were going on. Tokyo. So a lot of those O's, very pronounced. To the point where I could tell if somebody was American or not, based on how they said their O's. Good luck at your appointment, Ray Marie. Wait, how else are you supposed to say them? Sorry, tomorrow. One, two, three, 4, 6 and 9. No, not 6 and 9. 6 and 7. Since when is there an A? I love the Canadian accent. I did too. Greetings, Hannah. Welcome to the stream. I guess is Canadian. I never noticed how I said it. Yep. You Canadians absolutely do have an accent. And it's mostly in your O's. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. 4 and 6. I was definitely chuckling, and I was very excited to come back and tell you all. You're getting a new doggo tomorrow, Clue Girl? That's so exciting. Prince Edward Island itself is also very pretty. I would describe it as very similar to the UK countryside. Lots of rolling hills, not really a lot of trees, also not a lot of shade. So it was a little warm despite the temperature being kind of not that bad. It was pretty pleasant overall. And the architecture was very like Cape Cod cottage mixed with ranch style. Mixed with American ranch style, mixed with English cottage. And if you bunched all of those together, then you would have the standard PEI house. Says the Minnesotan. I know. Minnesotan. Favorite accent is Swedish, but Canadian might be second. Still not over the fact that Americans pronounce an A in words that don't contain A's. Yep. Yes, Joyful, go ahead. We do have a puzzle solution. If you're into wildlife and hiking, Canada is amazing. I did lots of hiking in PEI. It was beautiful. Definitely beautiful. And yeah, I love a good hike. I'm trying to think if there were any other Canada-specific things that I wanted to ask about. Yes, Joyful, you got it. Congratulations. PEI is in the Maritime English category. Okay, sure. 1, 2. So I need 2, 3, and 4 here. This is taking me a lot longer because I'm also trying to do story time. So sorry we've been on Sudoku for forever, but I needed to get this story out, and we're not even to like the crazy part of the story yet. Even Ontario. Mountain overviewing the lake. Oh, pretty. Pretty. Keep coming here. It's great for the things you seem to enjoy. Oh, absolutely. What evils happened at the airport? Every single one. Every single one. Do you guys want the long story or do you want the short story about my terrible, terrible, terrible time at the airport? Long story. Okay, you asked for it. Give us the tea. Greetings, Nun. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? So good to see you. So to preface this story, we need to remember that there are several things that WizardKitten hates. 3 of the things that WizardKitten hates: spiders, large crowds, and the dark. All of these will come important. These will become important later in the story, so remember those things. WizardKitten hates all of those things. So, I was supposed to get on my first flight out of Prince Edward Island at about 4 p.m. in Prince Edward Island time on the 9th. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the Sudoku while I'm telling this story. WizardKitten went to the airport for stories. Should I be concerned? Yes, you should. Okay, so I was supposed to leave the airport at 4 o'clock on April 9th. I was flying Air Canada. I'm not sure if it is always this terrible, but it was pretty bad. Yep. So, I get to the airport with plenty of time. I get to my gate, plenty of time. I am supposed to... Air Canada is notoriously terrible? Okay, well... Why am I frozen there? Why am I frozen on my tablet? That's weird. Is the stream still working for you guys? I'm not dropping frames. Are we still here? You're not frozen? Okay, then it's just my tablet. That's weird. Okay. I keep restarting this story. So, supposed to leave Prince Edward Island and connect through Quebec and then land in Minneapolis that evening. I was supposed to land in Minneapolis that evening at about like 9 p.m. With all of the time changes, I was supposed to land back home 9 p.m. on Friday. So, I get on my first flight, or to the gate for my first flight out of Prince Edward Island. We're sitting at the gate. It's very crowded. I'm ready to go home at this point. And we get an announcement that the flight is delayed about an hour and a half because of weather in Quebec, because of Hurricane Debbie, remnants of Hurricane Debbie. So I'm looking at my tickets for my connection out of Quebec. I had about a 2-hour window. So if we were an hour and a half delayed, that meant I had a half hour to get from my flight landing in Quebec to my flight to go to Minneapolis. So we finally get on the flight after about this hour and a half delay. We do take off. As we are landing in Montreal, some of the worst turbulence of my entire life. Like roller coaster. It felt like a roller coaster, up and down. We land, and I'm looking at the time. I still have about a half hour to get to my connecting flight. I'm like, okay, if I really rush, maybe I can make it. We're sitting on the tarmac. We're sitting on the tarmac. We're sitting on the tarmac. I'm watching time slowly drift away. And by the time the ground crew finally got to us, the ground crew was delayed. They were having issues getting the ground crew to us. By the time we finally got the ground crew to us, I had about 5 minutes to make it to my gate. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, maybe that flight is delayed. Maybe if I just go really fast. So I start rushing through to try and get there. And they make us check into customs before entering the United States, apparently. So I had to go through customs, which took a long time, and an additional security. So not just customs, but also security. Had to take off the shoes and take out the liquids and do the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle. I'm rushing to my gate, and it had left like long before. It left on time, about 45 minutes before. So I get there and I'm like, this is the flight I was supposed to be on to Minneapolis. I missed it, my connection. Where do I go? They tell me to go to this desk. This desk has about 6 people in line at this point. I stand in line. Greetings, Aspie. Welcome to the stream. So good to see you. I stand in this line. The line does not move. And again, literally only 6 people. Line does not move for an hour. Because this one lady at the desk has been arguing with the person about compensation for her flight for an hour. Eventually, security comes out because people are starting to get really peeved because there was a bunch of flights canceled because of the weather, and there were people behind me, the line getting really, really long, people getting really upset. So security had to come out and start trying to calm people down. And they finally told us, like, okay, it might be best if you just leave the gate, check back into Canada, and rebook at the arrivals desk. So I'm like, okay, fine. At this point, whatever. So I leave. I have to go through customs again because now I'm re-entering Canada. So I go through customs and security again. I then go to the waiting desk at arrivals to get rebooked on a new flight to Minneapolis out of Montreal. I stand in that line for another hour. I get to the desk. They tell me they cannot compensate a hotel. They cannot compensate any meals. They can rebook my flight to get me out. I get on a flight direct to Minneapolis. This is great. But they can't compensate me for any of this. They can, however, give me a taxi voucher. So they give me taxi vouchers and send me to the taxi. So by the time I get down to this taxi line, remembering that all of these flights have been canceled, I kid you not, this taxi line I stood in for 3 hours. 3 hours I stood in the line for the taxi because so many people had their flights canceled and needed to spend the night in Montreal. 3 hours. And this lady behind me, every single time the line moved forward, hit me in the back of my calves with her cart. Every single time. And I turned around and I would kind of give her a look like, excuse me. And every single time she would be like, oh, pardon. And I'm like, actually not pardon. The first or the second time, maybe pardon. The third time, no, not pardon. The third time, please stop hitting me with your cart. So I stood in this line for 3 hours. It's inside, looping around. And then it finally gets outside. So I'm standing here outside in this line. And then I look up. It is now 10 p.m. It is now very late. I was supposed to be on a flight at 5. It is now 10 p.m. Many, many hours have gone along. A notorious pardon. Rude. I know. It was so annoying. So we're finally made it outside and the line is still looping all the way around to get to the taxis. I look up. The lights under this concrete are absolutely covered in massive spiders. I'm talking bigger than a quarter. Every single light down in the line, and there were 14, were covered in giant spiders. So I had to stand here in this line. I am tired. I am nauseous. I want to go home. And there are giant spiders above my head. And if they had maybe just stayed in their little spider place, fine. But did they stay in their spider place? No. These spiders decided it would be fun to periodically descend on their little webs to the point that they almost landed on multiple people. So I'm sitting here keeping an eye out for the spiders, oh my god, while this lady continues to hit me in the back of my calves with her stupid cart. I finally make it all the way around to the taxi. The lady behind me, by the way, keeps trying to inch in front of me. Her son kept trying to tell her in French, Mom, you need to stop trying to cut in front of the nice girl. And the lady was like, oh, it's no big deal. In French, I assume. I couldn't understand her because she was in French. So I'm trying to deal with this lady and the spiders, and I finally make it to the front of the line. The lady is trying to cut in front of me, and her daughter-in-law is trying to cut in front of me. And then I realize the daughter-in-law is trying to cut in front of me because she's trying to translate for me. So she's trying to tell the taxi people in French, this lady just needs one, this girl just needs one. So everyone is speaking French around me. I get shuffled to this guy who's speaking to me in French, who is apparently my taxi guy. And I was so flustered at this point that I literally just shouted, English! It was not my finest moment. I shouted, English! And he switched to English, thankfully. He took my bag into his taxi. I gave him the hotel. He accepts my hotel voucher. I would have gotten the bus. That's the thing. Literally everybody was trying to get out. So all of the Ubers, people were buying limos. All of the Ubers, all the limos, all the rental cars, all the buses were all packed. So there was no good option at this point. English! So I finally get in this taxi. My driver I swear to God, was Batman. So fast, so scary, like jumping over curbs, like to get me around. Because so many people had their flights canceled, I had to get a hotel that was half an hour away from the airport. So Batman gets me to the airport. I get into my hotel. I am exhausted at this point. The very nice lady at the desk sees that I look absolutely like terrible. She was like, long day. I also do appreciate that all of the people in Quebec say bonjour, hello, and then you can respond with whichever language you prefer, and then they know which one to speak to you. I'm also very lucky that they are all bilingual because I don't speak French, so I was very grateful. Is there a lot of English-French confusion in Quebec? I mean, usually they ask first, so that was helpful. Greetings, by the way, Mint and Casey. So good to see me. Batman gets me. So I'm finally out of the airport. I was standing in lines in the airport, hadn't sat down for 6.5 hours, hadn't eaten or had water for 12 hours. So I get into the airport. The restaurant is closed. They suggest that I get Uber Eats. So I'm like, okay. So I go up to my hotel room. I got the last room in that hotel, by the way. This was the one grace, is that I got the last room available in this hotel. So I get up to my room. I struggle with the Wi-Fi for 20 minutes. I can't figure out how to connect to the Wi-Fi. I finally get it connected so I can download the Uber Eats app. I order Domino's pizza because I'm going to eat that entire pizza. My Uber Eats driver finally arrives with my pizza. I meet him in the lobby. I settle in my hotel room. I have updated my family that I'm not going to make it home. I have my pizza. I'm settling in to watch Colbert. 3 bites into my pizza, the power goes out in the hotel. It is now pitch black in my room. And do we remember that another thing that frightens WizardKitten is the dark? So I'm sitting here in the dark with the power out, eating my pizza. The power went out in almost all of Quebec because of Hurricane Debbie and the flooding. The person who checked me in told me the next morning that people got stuck in the elevator for 2 hours because of this power outage. So it could have been worse. I could have been stuck in the elevator. I didn't even get to watch Colbert. So I finished my pizza in the dark. I go take a shower in the dark. I am glad I had the pizza for comfort. I would have lost it at this point. All of Quebec. Oh, sorry, all of Montreal. Like half of Montreal did not have power. So I go to sleep. The power comes back on at 3 a.m. So the power was out for like 3 hours. I check my phone at this point. What do you guys think happened next? The flight that I was on to go to get home, canceled. The flight that I was supposed to take for Minneapolis, canceled. Mechanical problems on the plane. So, yep. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, they're texting. They're like, we're trying to get you rebooked. So I just go back to bed. I set my alarm for 7 a.m. I call the helpline, half asleep, and ask for them to get me rebooked on the next nonstop flight. They're like, the best we can do is to get you on a connecting flight through Toronto and then back to Minneapolis. So I said, okay, fine, put me on the flight. I could have gotten a train, but then I wasn't going to get compensated for all of the flights that I had lost. I had spent about $1,000 on the plane tickets to get to and from Prince Edward Island initially, so I would have lost a bunch of money, basically. I wanted Air Canada to take care of it at this point. So I have a flight now connecting from Toronto to Minneapolis. I stay in my hotel as long as I can. I order a nice breakfast. I got a very nice breakfast through Uber Eats. It was very good. I asked them to call me a taxi at noon. I get in my taxi. The guy refuses to take my taxi voucher because he's not an airport taxi, and the airport taxis usually don't come all the way out to Laval, which is the suburb that I was in. So I'm now out a taxi money. This taxi does not have air conditioning. There's air conditioning in the front, but there is a big plastic thing between the front and the back of the seat, because safety, I'm assuming, for the driver. So no air conditioning in the back of this taxi. The traffic in Montreal is the worst that this taxi driver has ever seen in his life. We're talking stop and go traffic. The sun is beaming down. I have no air conditioning. I'm getting car sick because I get car sick very easily. And it's stop and go traffic. I'm stuck in this taxi for 97 minutes. 97 minutes I am stuck in this taxi. The poor guy keeps apologizing to me, saying, like, this traffic is never this bad. This traffic is, I swear, I tried to take you the fast way. He caps my taxi fare at $75 instead of $77. So I pay this man $75 to almost kill me of heat stroke in the back of his taxi. I finally make it to the airport. I stumble out of this taxi, like barely coherent at this point, like almost ready to throw up. I get into the airport. I make it through customs. I make it through security. I get to my gate for my next flight. Things are going okay. I get on my flight to Toronto. We're sitting on the flight to Toronto, not taking off, taking kind of a while. The captain comes on and says, "Oh, we're having kind of an issue fueling the plane. It might be a little bit longer." My connection between my Toronto and my Minneapolis flight is 90 minutes. I have a 90-minute gap between when I'm supposed to land in Toronto to take off to my Minneapolis flight. So they're having an issue with the mechanic filling the gas, and then the power goes out on the plane. All the lights go off, all the electricity goes off, nothing. We're then sitting there with no air conditioning on the plane. Everyone's kind of freaking out for about 30 minutes. And then the captain comes on and says, "Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out. It's going to be a while." I'm watching time tick away. I'm getting closer and closer. So then the flight, they finally figure it out. It has now been an hour and 15 minutes, which means I would have 15 minutes between landing to get to my next flight to Minneapolis. So we take off. We make it to Toronto. Right as we are landing, I open up my phone to see what time it is. Right as we land in Toronto, my Minneapolis flight takes off without me. I'm pretty sure I saw it flying away because there was a plane that took off literally when it said it was taking off. So we land in Toronto. I have once again missed my connection to Minneapolis. So this time I don't even try to rush. This time I know I have missed my plane. So I ask them right away to tell me where to go. I go to the help desk. I stand in line for, this one was, I think, an hour and a half that I stood in this line. I eventually made it to the desk. Even the AI summary of chat thinks this is a horror story. I finally make it to the desk. They don't even, like, ask me what I need at this point. I think they had decided that I had been through enough at this point and that they had made me miss my connections enough times that the lady didn't even have to ask what I wanted. She got me rebooked on a nonstop flight to Minneapolis out the next morning. I did have to wait until the next morning. They made a hotel reservation for me. They got me a hotel limo. They, not like a full limo, but like a nice taxi, like a hotel limo is what they call it. And they gave me 2 meal vouchers to use at the airport. They were just like, at this point, we have inconvenienced you enough. Here. Yeah, that lady is the hero. I looked at her name. It was Sabrina. Sabrina at the Toronto airport, you are a lifesaver. Because I didn't even have to ask. She just knew, yep, not another day. Another day. So I get in my airport limo. They take me to my hotel. The restaurant at this hotel is thankfully still open. Shout out to Sabrina. Sabrina is a real one. I get to have dinner. I sleep in. I don't sleep in because I had to be up at 5:45 a.m. in the morning to get onto my flight because my flight was at 8 a.m. So I did not sleep in. I slept about 5 hours very fitfully because I was convinced that I was not going to make it out of Toronto. And then I get to the airport, the Toronto airport. The line to get through customs is 2 hours. I stand in this line for about an hour and then realize that there is an app that you can fill out. So I fill out the app to get through customs faster, and I get out of line and I go into the short line. That took me about a half hour. So I saved myself about a half hour. Go through the short line, make it to my gate in Toronto. The flight to Minneapolis takes off on time. I land in Minneapolis not at 8 p.m. on Friday, August 9th, but at 10 a.m. Sunday, August 11th. I missed a wedding that I was supposed to go to. I missed a Twins game that I was supposed to go to. But I finally made it home. And that's my story. Sabrina is secretly a fellow detective. Sabrina is a real one. Now I'm all heated up. I'm all heated up from telling my story. I'm glad you're still here. We're glad you survived. I'm so sorry. Glad you're finally home. I have never been so excited to be home. Greetings, Tessa. Welcome to the stream. Honestly, scarier than Shadow at the Water's Edge. I'm so glad you all agree. Combined with, like, the spiders descending from the taxi, the heat stroke in the back of the taxi, standing in line for a total of 10 hours, my body hurts so bad. Oh my gosh, you're right. There's 114 people here. Hello. Hello, fellow detectives. Oh, I love you all so much. Thank you. I just got here. Heard the part you were saying the customs line was 2 hours. That's not even the start of it, Priya. It's so good to see you, by the way. Welcome. Greetings, Jack. Canada didn't want you to leave. That's what I was saying. That's what I was joking about. It was like, oh, Canada likes me so much that they decided they wanted to kidnap me, apparently. It was 82 before the story started. Much scarier than spooky Japanese ghost girl. Not sure if I said hello yet, Mint. Welcome to the stream. It's so good to see you. Get an achievement for worst flight story. I think so. And apparently Air Canada does have really, really bad, a really bad reputation. So, like, the actual people in these airports were clearly doing the best that they could. There were adults that were throwing things. There were adults that were stomping their feet. There were adults that were cussing out the poor people working in these airports, just doing their best, trying to figure things out. I maintained my composure. It was not easy, but I maintained my composure through this whole thing. I was trying to be nice to these poor people who were just doing the very best that they could. All of the actual people were great. I don't need to see the world. I felt bad for them too, Pom. It was terrible. Now it will be a car trip. Yeah, it's going to be a long time before I get on an airplane again. It'll be a long time before I get on an airplane again. So yeah, it was basically 2 trips. There was the very nice, lovely little trip to Prince Edward Island, and then there was the absolute nightmare that I will never forget. That will make me absolutely never fly Air Canada ever again.